Oh ho ho everyone, this is Thermite, and this is my reaction to Man in Cave by Internet Historian. It's been a hot minute since I learned who Internet Historian was, let alone, the time between then and now when I am finally watching an Internet Historian video. As far as I know, I haven't seen an Internet Historian video. Probably should have double checked before I started this by saying that. I've definitely been shown an Internet Historian ad spot at some point. Someone was like, hey, you should check out this ad spot, and I watched it. So I know a little bit about the Internet Historian, animation style and the I imagine the way in which the jokes are told and stuff are pretty similar in the ads to the actual videos. So this isn't a 100% blind channel reaction, but this is, I'm pretty sure, my first ever Internet Historian video, actually. This is, as you may have noticed, a little bit of a Christmas present for my beloved fiance Donut, who has been trying to get me to watch an Internet Historian video for ages. Genuinely ages. This one, I believe, came out in October. The thumbnail is a little bit spooky, so I'm assuming it's a creepy sort of story. Yeah, I don't really have any other ideas as to what the video's actually going to be about besides Man in Cave. I mean, most of these video titles tend to be very, there's a pun to them in some way, or, there's something to it where it's very clearly, I think, oh, this is probably a play on words. There's probably a twist in the video that is, looking at the sidebar here, the cost of Concordia, I assume, is about a literal cost, but also a figurative cost, or, what's another one? Also, please don't look at these videos as a catalog of things I watch. I'm not going to dwell on this for too much. Anyways, let's check out the actual video itself. I don't actually know how well this is going to be captured visually on OBS, but my screen's brightness is, in fact, changed so that the text on the left is barely visible, but it is visible. If it's not visible to you, I am sorry about that. Hopefully, it does not take away from the actual viewing experience. And yeah, I suppose that is it. Let's just go right into it then.
In the state of Kentucky, there is a cave.
Okay.
That every now and then demands a sacrifice. January 30th, 1925.
Okay.
A man walks towards the cave with a kerosene lamp in his hand. He hangs up his jacket and ducks into a 5-foot opening. The inside of the cave is narrow. He has to drop down on his hands and knees, crawling through a passageway filled with jagged rocks and choking dust. Then down a chute he had cleared out months earlier.
Okay.
All of the daylight is gone from here, and this lantern is his only source of light.
The art style makes this look so creepy.
Loose limestone rocks perched directly above him. He is now 100 feet in, and here he reaches the turnaround room.
Okay.
Now, they call this the turnaround room because this is the juncture where even experienced cavers say, no thanks, and turn around. Because to continue on means going through this. The squeeze.
Okay.
A gap in the stone of only 9 inches. For reference, here's a subway sub.
Oh boy.
Going through, he would look exactly like this. His arms will need to be completely at their side, and he will need to exhale.
Again,
so
why?
that he can reduce the size of his torso. Gradually, bit by bit, he disappears into the hole. His clothes are caught on sharp gypsum crystals, hooking into him and threatening to hold him in place. But using his feet like paddles, he pushes through. He reaches a wider opening at the other side.
What the fuck?
Then crawls forward towards a ledge. Illuminated here is a 10-foot drop.
Okay.
A rope is already secured around a boulder, which allows him to rappel down. His worn-out leather shoes touch the ground. This is as far as he can go. And it is time for work to begin.
Oh, is he digging this out?
Is another opening. At the moment, it's too small for anyone to fit through. but he will chip away at it until he can shove himself right through the other side.
Okay.
Because on the other side is this. A magnificent and otherworldly cave structure that will be irresistible to tourists. Every day for months he has been removing rocks from
How did
this
he find
crevice.
this place, though?
To him, this is all just routine. So he eases further into the gap. Carefully, he contorts his body through. Rocks
God
compress
damn.
the sides of his torso so close that his arms are pinned to the side of his body.
Holy
He
shit.
once again paddles his feet to inch down. Then, about halfway, he stops. The lantern. It's starting to dim.
Gas?
He will need to go all the way back to the
I see.
surface to refuel the thing. He sighs. He slowly shuffles back out, pushing the lantern with his shoulder. Then, oh no. Ding, crack, darkness.
Oh,
He
fuck.
has knocked over the lamp, and it has broken. Now, the man didn't panic. He had been caught in the dark before, and he could make his way back by feel alone.
Jesus
So he
Christ.
continues worming out.
Sorry, quick pause. I really appreciate how much this is building up the fact that he has done this so many times. And, like, we have a motivation now, to clear out the area, go down, dig it out, eventually get to this really cool cavern. But, I mean, once you get to that cavern, like, you can't expect tourists to do this. Like, you'd still have to, like, blow out another side, right? In which way, like, if you were to do that anyways, why not just do that first? And B, like, I mean, human beings, I guess, they're just insanely adaptable, huh? The idea that you could keep on doing this for, such a long time to the point where it is so insanely routine that you don't really, you're not that worried about it anymore. You know how to navigate through this area in the pitch black. The idea that, as far as we can tell, like maybe he's had this lamp come out before, maybe not. But, like, if he's never done it before, that's impressive because, holy crap, I can't believe he did it this many times. If it has gone out before, I don't know if that's less or more impressive. Because that's still insane to think that, you could have it go out and still, get out at some point and still not be completely fucking scarred and go like, well, I can't possibly go back in anymore. Like, that was my one shot. And that's, of course, compounded with the fact that, like, we're hearing about this incident. And so I really feel like he's going to get stuck, right? Like, why bring up this specific time unless this is the one where something goes extremely wrong or extremely right? And I don't know what could go extremely right here because, like, he can't make the cave more accessible through circumstance at this point, right? Like, we know how he can do it by digging the dirt out and slowly pulling it out. So it feels like this has to be a story where it goes wrong.
Leveraging his foot against what he thinks is the cave wall. But that is not the cave wall. That is, in fact, a rock protruding from the ceiling. As soon as he puts his weight against the rock, it breaks loose.
Oh, boy.
A solid piece weighing 15 kilograms lands directly on his ankle.
Oh.
It aches. But he's okay. It doesn't feel as though his ankle is broken, just badly bruised and caught underneath the rock. So he shuffles to move the rock away. Suddenly, gravel. A lot of gravel. It falls onto his feet, his legs, his torso, and the weight of it all forces the wedged rock deeper into the gap underneath his foot. Pinned. He tries to push forward. He cannot. He tries to inch backwards. He cannot.
Shit.
He is stuck. This is Sand Cave. This man is Floyd Collins.
Okay.
He is trapped in absolute darkness, 60 feet deep below the earth. All of his limbs held in place at the very bottom of this.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy shit. He's So
But
far
before I
in.
tell you what happens next, ad time.
Oh boy, here we go.
People trapped in a cave. World of Tanks. World of Tanks is not only the best game I have ever played, it is the only game I have ever played. It's like cars, but tanks. Picture this. You're a hot new T-34-85M, and you've just joined the battle because some Cromwell B tank-bagged your entire family. It's time for revenge. You must use strategy. You must use stuff. You must use your wits to defeat your enemies. Use long range or short range. It's available on
Can you do
console,
that?
but I want you to get it on PC. Imagine a world war, but there are tanks involved this time. Yeah, now you get it. When you've seen as many messed up tanks as I have, you get a little cynical about the world. My God, I'm gonna be sick. Look at all the different tanks. You can collectimize and customize them all. Massive battles where you can constantly team kill and ruin other people's good time.
What the f***? I'm out of your f***ing chair!
Did I mention it's historically accurate? Especially the Japanese robot tanks. Ooh, look. The tanks are kissing. Progressive. Use the invite code TANKMANIA and get the Excelsior.
I've never downloaded this
250K
game.
credits. Other stuff. Go to the link in the description and use the invite code TANKMANIA. Here's what you do. Get World of Tanks. Put that on one screen. Then, on a second monitor, you'll watch the next hour of this video while you play the game. Perfection. I'm contractually obliged to say thank you for being a friend.
Oh,
Such
boy.
No. Tank's empty, kid. Go on without me. No, use your repair consumable. It's too late, kid. Take care of my family for me. No. Get it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Collins is still in the dark, unable to move. His left arm was pinned underneath his torso, his right wedged by the rock ceiling above. Beneath him, sharp crystal shards dug into his skin.
All right, for off the
Ice
sharp bits.
thawed, traced across the ceiling and dripped down directly onto his face, cooling underneath him. The water was a consistent 54 degrees.
Oh boy.
Floyd tried to breathe calmly. It's
gonna drop that body temperature.
When he did attempt to shuffle, more gravel and rocks would tumble from above and pile onto his feet, so nothing would work. He clawed at the cave walls till his fingertips were bloody, and he realized that there was only one option left. Call out for help.
Is the sound even
Wait,
gonna
wait, wait,
travel?
wait, wait. Who is Floyd, and why did he even go into a dangerous cave?
Oh.
Floyd has been exploring the caves of Kentucky since he was merely 6 years old.
God
And as he
damn.
grew up, he gained a reputation for being a very daring caver. He would
sounds
dive
like it.
into some hole on one side of town and emerge miles away on someone else's property.
Sup?
He grew up and he became embroiled in the Kentucky Cave Wars.
What?
Now, there's way too much to go into here, but the summary version
What?
is there's this huge network of interconnected
Uh-huh.
caves called Mammoth Caves. It's actually the
God
largest
damn.
cave system in the world. And there's a city right in the middle of it. Cave City, real name. So of course there are dozens of cave entrances on private
Right.
property all over the place. Now farmland in this region has very poor soil and things do not grow well here.
See, because of
So,
the caves.
cave tourism as a source of income quickly became the prominent thing.
Oh,
However,
okay, this
a
explains a
problem.
lot, actually.
There are a very large number of caves, but there are only a limited number of tourists. So competition rapidly escalated. Visit my cave. No,
I
no.
see.
Visit
These are the
my
cave
cave.
wars.
Big signs were erected saying, tourists, come to me. Mine is definitely open. Mine is the best. But then competitors would respond by saying, hey, by the way, we're open, but don't go to that one over there. It's really shitty. In fact, it's dangerous. This kept going further. By the end, they were blocking off the trail to each other's property, beating each other in the streets, and hiring people called cappers who would dress up as policemen and tell tourists, no, you can't go in there. That one, no, it's illegal. Despite the fierce competition,
Oh my
Floyd
God.
found a cave on his property, and he started advertising it to tourists. Of course, very
Who can
few
go in
came.
there? What the fuck,
All
Floyd?
right, he thought, what if I found something really special and unique? Then surely people would have to come to my cave to see it. So he kept exploring and exploring until he found this hollow. It was filled with big gypsum crystals, and when you were in there, it felt like a completely alien world. But it was barely accessible. This small tunnel is the only way in. He would need to dig for months to open it up to tourists, but he knew he could do it. Back to the competition.
I guess it is
They knew
just
the value
sheer
of this
endurance.
cave. They knew the potential, they wanted it for themselves, and they wanted Collins gone. One time, 5 of them just wandered onto Floyd's property and demanded he hand over the lease.
God
When he
damn.
refused, they just started beating the shit out of him. This only stopped when Floyd's brother, Homer, marched out with a shotgun and chased them all off.
God
But
damn.
Floyd was not deterred. He spent 12 hours a day, every day,
Jesus
for months,
Christ, my dude.
clearing gravel and stone, chipping away at that passage. He would open it up to tourists, make his cave an incredible attraction, and make his dreams come true.
I gotta respect him for it. Holy shit.
Hey! Is anyone there?
So there's Floyd in the dark, yelling out for help. He's at the start of a very tiring loop. Sleep, wake, yell. Sleep, wake, yell. Hours passed. His voice gave in. Arms tingled numb.
Right, he
Pain
doesn't even know what time of day it is at this
radiating up
point.
his ankle. Here he remained in the dark for the next 23 hours.
Jeez. I mean, everyone knows he goes to this cave, though, so maybe
Quickly,
someone's
you
gonna
might
come by.
wonder, how come no one's come for him after 23 hours?
Uh-huh.
Well, Sand Cave resides on a 200-acre farm. There are several homes on this property with other families. One of them, of course, is Colin's house, where Floyd's father, Lee, resides. Now, Lee and Floyd constantly get into fights about how to run things. Lee wants his son to concentrate on farming, and Floyd wants to concentrate on cave tourism. Arguments would
Fair.
often get heated. And Lee was also a bit of a drunk. It was doubtful that he would even notice if his son Floyd was missing. Also not helping things, Floyd regularly lodged at 2 other homes on the farm. So when he didn't return to one host, they would presume that he was staying with the other.
Okay.
And
Aw,
even worse
jeez.
than that, he had recently spent 30 hours in a cave. So disappearing
my
for this length
God.
of time wasn't seen as abnormal.
Right. Oh my
Regardless.
god.
Around the 23-hour mark, a few locals started to suspect that, hey, something might be wrong, and they went to check up on him.
God damn,
And
good
here,
neighbors.
they spotted his jacket still hung up. Unusual. They went deeper. However, there was only one person small enough to make it as far as the turnaround room. This was a 17-year-old Jewel Estes. He refused to go into the squeeze, but it was close enough to call Collins' name.
Floyd!
And Collins yelled back.
Okay, so we
Estes
have at least
emerges
that.
from the cave.
Okay, we know he's trapped, and we know
Oh, his
where he
lips
is.
look so fucking
So,
bad.
locals started to gather outside. Out of my way. Say a bunch of men who would each show up and take turns heading into the cave in an attempt to reach Collins. But once they reached the
This is
turnaround
pretty good
room,
advertising.
Nope. Nope. Nope.
they would fail to reach him, emerging from the cave, soaked in mud and cursing. Out of my way, they would say as they were heading in the reverse direction. So a few more hours passed. Word would spread around town. Dozens of locals from Cave City started to gather outside. Over in Louisville, Floyd's 22-year-old brother, Homer, he gets a phone call.
Oh, so he moved out.
Hello? I see. Ah, my brother. He's trapped in a cave? I'm on my way.
Homer jumps on a coach
damn.
and makes his way to Floyd's cave. Homer struts up to the scene. Dozens of men are standing around outside. He ignores them all and marches right into the cavern, still wearing his city clothes. He makes his way in, down the chute, through
come
the
on,
narrowing
come on.
passage, down on his hands and knees towards the turnaround room. And when he arrives, he does not hesitate. He squeezes into the hole,
Oh,
scrambles
man.
his way through to the ledge on the other side. He sees Floyd below and slides down. to
Oh
meet
man.
Floyd!
Sup?
him. Probably wasn't that casual.
Oh, thank God you're here.
Homer took a moment to shine his light around the area and assess the situation. It was not good. This rock formation is going to prove almost impossible to work around. All right, so let's have a look.
Okay.
Floyd is here. The rock is here, pinning his ankle. He's surrounded by rubble, and there's a pocket of gravel above him,
Oh.
ready to fall. However,
see, yeah.
because this opening is so small, there are only two viable ways of reaching Floyd and that gravel. Option 1, the most obvious, feet first. But if you do this, you have to kind of squat, and your own torso obstructs access to the rubble. Otherwise, option 2,
Oh,
come down
no.
head first. That will give you better access, but you're trying to move hundreds of pounds of gravel upside down.
Jesus
Worse
Christ.
yet, there's barely an inch around Collins on either side, so good luck getting your arm down near Floyd's ankle to actually free him from the wedged rock.
Yeah.
Homer calls back to the less daring rescuers standing behind him.
Quickly, some food and drink.
They send it through.
Okay.
He hand feeds his brother a pint of coffee and a total of 9 sausage sandwiches.
Feeling
Bear?
Much better.
Then, Homer went to task. He began removing rocks and gravel, tiny scoop at a time, with the help of an old syrup can.
Oh man, all the actual photos is it's so cool. In fact, this
For
is
the
so
next
actually
8
documented.
hours he toiled, first with hands, then, once enough was cleared, using a crowbar to scoop behind his brother, scraping away sharp protrusions as he went. It was slow progress. Virtually futile. As soon as he removed one rock or scoop of gravel, another would tumble from above and land in the new absence. And it was exhausting work. By sunrise, Homer's arms and back were knackered. His lungs burned. He was losing hope. Homer emerged hours later, shivering violently, skin bruised from his fingertips, but the cave barely yielded at all.
God damn.
However, something new. By the time Homer reached outside, he was greeted by a sea of approximately 100 men and women standing around, drinking, squabbling, and talking big game about how they too were going to save Floyd.
Uh-huh.
The press was also present to help people gawk from afar. Now, Homer recuperated at a small tent near the cave's mouth.
Oh man.
Strangers immediately crowded around him to ask innocent but, frankly, frustrating questions and offer unsolicited, obvious advice as well as wildly impractical solutions.
Ain't that the
"We should
way?
try untying his shoes," said one. "No, we should send him down with a contortionist who's got
I
a
thought he was
mallet
gonna say
and a chisel."
katana.
We should jerk him off, right, guys? All right, I made that third guy up, but you get the idea. And they started to argue with each other about their plans. Hey, how about using dynamite? One click form, insisting that it was a great idea, and another saying, no, the explosion will kill him, and the weight of the new rocks will surely crush him. They fought for a while until they started arguing about gas torches, which will cook him or asphyxiate him, or the gas will poison him. But by far the most common suggestion, of course, was amputation. Never mind that the foot itself was unreachable, and never mind what the blood loss and shock would do to Floyd's weakened body.
Yeah.
And never minding even more that Floyd was strongly reluctant to the idea.
Whatever you do, don't cut my foot off.
All of the squabble would not have gotten on Homer's nerves, except that not one of them would just brave the damn cave and continue shoveling away the gravel.
Yeah, like he's
The
got a
formula
rest.
was always the same. Brave heroes go in with food and supplies, then reach the turnaround room and immediately lose their nerve, then dump the food just outside the hole, and then return back outside and go, "Oh, absolutely. No," he says, "Thanks for the food. Thank you so much. Yum, yum." No one would go through that squeeze.
Oh my
Dozens more men would
god.
try. All of them would fail.
I mean, I can't blame them. I wouldn't be able to do this, but still.
February 2nd, 9 a.m. So far, Homer has been the only person to have reached Floyd.
Where's the other
And
fucking...
that would continue.
Where are the other fucking cave warriors? Those are the guys who should be doing this. Like, A, because they'd be trained, B, because that'd be pretty good advertising to then be the person who can do it. I assume the reason why they don't is because they aren't the guys who can do it, because they, I mean, who knows? Maybe they haven't gone here yet, or maybe they're just kind of hoping he'll die. They haven't fully gotten to the point of going like, oh, this is really good advertising for my cave. Or I guess for me as a person. I don't know if this is actually a good way to promote the caves as a whole. Like, after this is all over, assuming he survives, this would be a pretty good story to tell. But I can see how in the moment it'd be a really hard, like, if everyone's worrying about this cave-in, maybe the tourists aren't going to want to come to my cave in case they also, end up caved in.
Continue to be true until here we are at the Louisville Courier. There's a spirited young newshawk named William Miller. He's talking to his boss, and he's trying to convince him that it's a great idea for him to cover the story of the man trapped in the cave.
Listen up, boss. I'm hearing talk of a man in a cave. He's stuck down there, and I want to get down there, too. Get to the nitty-gritty, you hear?
This is an opportunity for some good PR, Miller. I'm in, but I want us to sponsor that rescue. Picture this.
Okay.
Man saved from cave by Louisville Courier, the finest newspaper in the state. That'll drum up plenty of business.
24-carat idea, boss. I'll make it happen. I'll get down there toot sweet.
So off Miller goes
Do you like
to
it?
Floyd's cave.
It's got a really strong, like in Neuromancer when Hero calls the pizza guys to come save him under the premise of you deliver anywhere, so you'll definitely deliver to me in this awful situation.
Back over at the cave, Homer is sitting outside trying to recuperate as Miller wanders up. He glares at the man in his city clothes and answers every question with either a grunt or a one-word answer.
Yeah. Sure.
Finally, he gestures to Sand Cave.
Listen, you want more information? The hole's right behind me. Why don't you go take a look yourself?
Now, Miller is only 21, but he is a slender and determined man.
Oh.
He takes on the challenge.
You get in?
So he removes his suit, drapes himself in coveralls, and grabs a lamp. Miller slowly enters the cave. He finds himself stepping in puddles and having to correct his balance against the ever-softening walls. These were accumulating problems thanks to the Gawkers outside who had lit campfires all around the entrance.
Okay.
That caused snowmelt, and the stable environment of the cave is starting to shift.
Oh,
But
that's
Miller
so
makes it
interesting.
further than most. And all that's left is that final squeeze, and he's there. He stops. He takes a moment and decides to call out to Floyd.
Floyd!
Hearing there is someone on the other side, he feels ashamed not to try. So he closes his eyes
Oh, man.
and moves forward. His slender figure begins inching through. The crystal gypsum cuts into his elbows and tugs at his clothes.
God bless
He
the
gets
young and
snapped.
dumb.
He's spluttering through the pools of muddy water. He stops, collects himself, and pushes on. He can barely inhale. If he gets stuck in here, he can only hope that someone else
I
can
wonder if
come
he's
in
taking
from
food and
behind
water.
and pull him out by the legs. But eventually, he makes it through. Fantastic. He's now standing on the edge of a 10-foot pit, and he clumsily bumbles his way down. He sat right next to Floyd, ready to enter.
Damn.
But Floyd didn't really answer any of his
That's
questions.
reporting. God
In
damn.
fact, he was incoherent. At the moment, he is sitting in a pool of water that is 12 degrees, slowly sapping his body temperature.
Yeah.
He is dying from exposure. The cold is diminishing Floyd's mental faculties, and he can barely make sentences. So Miller took a few mental notes, and he left. He worked his way back through the squeeze, past the turnaround room, and out into the day. He is covered in mud and scratches and numb head to toe.
God
And
damn.
when Homer saw, his hope reignited. Someone else had made it to Floyd.
You and me. Together, we
Aw.
can get Floyd out of there.
Come on. Not sure if the paper's
If
going
Miller
to sponsor him
hadn't
for
gone to
this.
that cave, there's a good chance that Floyd's story would have remained an obscure footnote in the back pages. But the interviews and first-person accounts gave the audience a glimpse of something real.
So cool.
Hope, desperation, the full range. And so, from Los Angeles to New York, Floyd's story was picked up everywhere and described the Kentucky man's plight in sensational detail. It was also the era when radio became a regular feature for
So we went
regular
viral.
Americans. Radio allowed something new, hourly updates.
Oh,
People
man.
get engrossed into the story. So, mostly thanks to Miller, the story of Floyd over the next week would grow and grow,
Holy crap.
seemingly frothing over into every aspect of American life. The press at large would be clamoring over each other for every little extra scrap of detail they could get about
Oh,
Floyd.
that part's actually really cool.
And everybody wanted to know, will this man make it? Back outside the cave, someone new enters the scene. Lieutenant Robert Burden, a thin but strong 33-year-old Louisville firefighter. Like Miller, he was able to navigate the passages of the cave and brave the squeeze.
Okay. Yeah.
Scratched up pretty good and drenched in cold, muddy
Someone's
water,
definitely gonna get stuck at
he
some
managed
point,
to get
right?
through. He grabbed the rope and confidently lowered himself to Floyd's position. It was not an optimistic sight. Floyd's condition was deteriorating.
Well, we've got a heck of a problem here, but I think I can get you out with a rope.
Floyd nods in approval.
Go on.
We might just pull your bloody leg off.
Just pull my leg off then. Get me out of here.
Burden
Getting
returned to the
desperate.
surface and faced
Fair.
the crowd. He announced.
We will attempt a rope pull.
The crowd murmured. It was dangerous. It would certainly break his foot and could altogether pull it off. If there are jagged rocks, you'll fillet the poor man. Amongst the crowd, a doctor stepped forward. A rope pull could stretch his internal organs and cause them to rupture. You'll kill him. But Floyd is dying of exposure down there. The situation is becoming desperate.
Yeah.
Burden put caution to the side.
The time for strategy is over.
Okay.
Now we try brute force.
But even so, it can only be one guy pulling, right? Because you can't have the rope go all the way out. Oh my god! Jesus Christ! Oh, that's such a good effect. Is this hallucination, or... It's gotta be, right? What the fuck? Yeah, definitely. Holy shit. Come on, Floyd, wake up. Come on, come on, come on.
Floyd! Floyd! We're here. We're gonna get you out of here.
Come on.
After 79
Wanna believe
hours
it.
in the cold water, he is delirious, fading in and out of consciousness. Homer gave his brother some coffee and fed him a couple of ham sandwiches. That warms him up and gives him a bit more energy, and he comes back to lucidity.
Oh, much better.
I'm gonna put the special harness around
Did they not
you.
feed him for like 2
Burden and
days?
Miller, they're here too. We got 3 more boys right up the cave, and they're all ready to
Okay.
pull as hard as they can to get you out of here.
All right,
Floyd
fair.
was frightened.
I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna hurt.
He gave his brother some
Yeah.
whiskey and a strong sedative to calm his nerves, and also to help him withstand the shock in case his foot is destroyed.
Where are they
Floyd took the
harnessing him?
opportunity
Because they can't get to
appreciate
his
being
shoulders, right?
surrounded by friends and family.
They're gonna fucking wrap it around his neck?
Do it.
All right, strap him up.
Homer tied the harness around Colin's chest and knotted the
Okay,
rope.
so they can't go that
Ready?
deep in.
Above, Miller is crouched at the top of the pit.
Ready?
Burden clenches the cord from further up the cave.
3,
The rope goes taut.
2,
Do it.
1.
Oh!
Okay.
Instinctively, Floyd gasps. The force of 6 men pulled against the clutches of the cave. Floyd began to scream. His body
Oh,
was being pulled up from the rubble. The gravel was beginning to shift. Burden clenched his teeth.
come on.
Floyd screamed harder as well. And Floyd was trapped in a supine position. But the direction of the rope caused an
Right.
upward force that wrenched him vertically.
Oh,
His
fuck.
torso was being compressed and bent against the ceiling of the trap.
Oh, God.
Floyd's screaming intensified, and through gasps was begging them to stop.
Oh,
The screams
fuck.
filled the
Oh,
echoing
fuck.
cave, but it did not stop. The agony
Because, yeah, they
continued
already know it's gonna hurt.
on and on, with no progress.
Enough! Enough! You guys are
Jesus.
killing him!
Homer pulled
I
in the
said
opposite
stop.
direction to give his brother some reprieve. Somehow, Homer mustered the strength to altogether wrench the cord from the other men's hand.
Holy shit.
Went slack.
God damn,
Floyd
Homer.
and the rope lay limp on the cave floor, panting and exhausted. No progress had been made.
You could really use something to, like,
The cave
redirect
would not
the
let
force.
this man go. The futility of the situation sank in, and all they could do was leave for now and reassess. Everybody was shaken by the experience. Burden fainted as he crawled towards the exit. Most of the other men had to be carried away. Outside,
damn.
the crowd had grown to 200. They buzzed and asked useless questions, and Homer walked dejectedly past them. He sat by thinking what he could do. The cause seemed hopeless.
Homer?
Then, someone showed up who could turn things around. He looked up to see a childhood friend of both his and Floyd's, Johnny Gerald. Gerald knew more about cave rescues than most. In fact, just that summer prior, he had helped untangle Floyd from a different snag. He was just the man for the job.
Okay.
All right, let me go see him. Well, look who it is.
Floyd perked up immediately,
Yay.
thrilled to see Gerald.
All right, let's see what we can do.
Gerald jumped down. For the next 3 hours, Gerald went back to the original plan of prying away rocks. His stamina was good, and progress was surprisingly good as well.
Oh,
For
really?
several more hours, he continued,
Huh, why are you
moving
not
stone after
refilling
stone.
it?
New one would fall in its place, and he'd move that one too. By
Okay,
midnight,
fair.
he had enough room to shift position and clear some of the gravel that was at each side of Floyd's body.
Dang.
Gerald would spend several more hours scooping. And it worked. For the first time, Floyd's torso was now available. Then his
Okay.
hips, his upper thigh. For the first time in over 90 hours, Floyd was able to wiggle his arms, his hips, and
Holy
even
crap.
that trapped right leg,
Oh my
though it was
God.
very painful to do. In that one session,
Absolute
Gerald
legend.
managed to move a half-ton of rock. But there
Holy
was still a lot more
shit!
to go. And that rock by his foot was still holding him in place. By
How
2
the
a.m.,
hell? Oh my
Gerald
god.
was spent.
What a
He needed
dude.
rest. And he was ready to head back outside.
Floyd, tomorrow you're gonna be a free man.
I can buy it.
Now, here you might think that things will become straightforward. They did not. Now that space had been cleared, Burden became convinced that if he could get down that passage again, he could free Floyd with another rope pull, fate deciding with both feet or just one. But when Burden tried to enter the cave again, he was sternly rebuffed by the locals. They were playing gatekeeper. They had been
Why?
specifically instructed to not let anyone in, and they were especially opposed to Burden making another rope pull after word spread about the disaster of the first attempt.
Okay, fair.
tried to reason
But I
with
mean,
them.
Let me
yeah.
try the rope pull again. It'll work.
I mean, these
this
guys don't know what the
time.
fuck they're
They
talking
wouldn't give up.
about.
Instead, they shouted obscenities and shoved him in the other direction.
Jesus Christ.
Meanwhile, Gerald and Homer are incapacitated with
Like-
exhaustion, and Miller
Talking completely out of my ass. Now that enough stuff has been shifted away, I feel like the main problem right now would be the big jagged rock in one of his legs. Like that, if you are pulling against the leg, it's probably still going to stay pinned. But, like, as long as they have a pulley or something, like, the main problem last time was they weren't redirecting the force. Like, if you had a pulley, like, behind where his head is, and you fed the rope through there, he wouldn't have to do anything else, really. I mean, maybe the second one on top, but whatever. As long as the force is pulling him outwards, it should be more okay. I mean, then also have a safe word to get everyone to stop, so you don't pull him out and then smash his head into the wall and keep on smashing it in, obviously. Like, a safe word would have also really helped, actually, with the chest compression part earlier on as well, but I totally fair. I get why you wouldn't have thought of it at the time. But yeah, it doesn't feel like it's going to be that straightforward, though. Boy, oh boy. I mean, what the fuck else is there to do, though?
was busy filing some paperwork for the Louisville Courier. Nobody else had the ability or the authority to take action, so Floyd spent all of that morning alone.
Hello? Is anyone there? Help?
Oh, and yeah, they can't tell what's going on.
Anyone out there?
Fuck.
Word spread about Floyd. Miller's reporting had been picked up by the AP Newswire, and they distributed it amongst their hundreds of partnered newspapers. For Miller, it would be the biggest moment of his career. But he didn't stop to pay it mind. He spent the day hatching a rescue plan.
God
Miller
damn!
descended into the cave and set to work.
What a
When he
journalist.
entered, he found that the team before him had strung light bulbs all through the cavern,
Oh,
leading all the way down to Floyd. Very handy.
okay.
A bulb was also put around Floyd's neck to keep him warm and make sure that he was never again left in the dark.
Oh,
Miller
fuck.
popped
Good
out.
idea. Holy shit.
Ah, Floyd, fancy seeing you here,
Man, hope it
buddy.
doesn't electrocute him.
Reusing that syrup tin, he started offloading gravel into buckets. Those buckets were then passed up and down the cavern. And
like
so
an
it
actual
went on
system. Holy
for the
shit.
next 2 hours. Miller stopped for a break.
Okay,
He took some bread, milk, and whiskey, and sharing it with Floyd, they started to get to talking. Floyd had been in that cave for over 100 hours now, and seeing everyone working together, Floyd was overcome with a sense of hope and relief, and so he began spilling his heart out to Miller. Here is what he is quoted in the newspaper.
I believed I would go to heaven. I can feel that I'm to be taken out alive and with both my feet. I kept thinking, what would happen if the rock above me would fall? It caused me to shudder. I kept thinking to drive my mind to something else, but it wasn't much use.
Yeah, can't blame
I
him.
couldn't do much to help those who came to help me, but I knew that a lot of people were willing to do all in their power.
Oh, man.
It gave me courage. Tuesday morning, I thought to myself, 4 days down here, and no nearer freedom than I was on the first day. How will it end? Will I get out? I couldn't think of it. I have faced death before. It doesn't frighten me, but it is so long.
Holy
Tell them I am not going to give up. Tell
Oh.
them I'm going to fight and be patient and never forget them.
Oh man, I hope he gets out of this hole. Dear God, let him get out of this
Meanwhile,
hole.
Floyd's story kept growing. Pedestrians would gather around corner store windows to read the latest bulletins. The press began using giant typefaces, commonly only reserved for declarations of war. Churches in all of the nearby counties were holding services for Floyd.
Oh,
Theaters
man.
even interrupted their shows to update the audience.
Holy
At the
crap.
time, President Coolidge was in charge, and his Secretary of Commerce was a geologist, Herbert Hoover. Now,
Oh,
Mr. Hoover followed the story very closely, and so it was likely that the president did too.
God damn.
Congress paused session to ask about the latest news.
This
from San
really goes all the
By
way to the
end,
top.
The Floyd Collins incident would explode into the third largest non-political story between World War I and World War II.
Holy shit.
All of this excitement brought an inundation.
I can't believe this.
into
I didn't know
Cave
that.
City. Old population, 690. Yawn. New population,
It's so insanely on the nose that it is Cave City. I mean, I get it because of the cave system and all that before this, but it truly is the perfect, like, fictional thing. It's the most, like, it's too on the nose to be a fictional story because you'd go, this is bullshit. Holy crap.
city. Old population, 690. Yawn. New population, 10,000. Hotels ran out of food. Residents turned their homes into makeshift hotels,
Holy
charging
crap.
sizable premiums to let people nap in their bathtubs. The banks quickly ran out of on-hand cash, and 4,500 automobiles impatiently sat backed up for 2 miles
Oh
from
my
20 different
God.
states to drive onto the Collins farm and turn their pristine green pastures into swampy parking lots.
Oh, fuck yeah, they can't grow
All
shit
those
here
tourists.
anymore.
There's Miller, trying to free Floyd. Alright, a little bit of setup. Floyd, Miller, some remaining rubble, rock. For anyone to lift the rock by hand would be impossible because Floyd's body obstructs the hole. Miller grabs a crowbar and shoves it through the gap. Now he's going to lever it off Floyd's foot. Cool. The crowbar is now wedged against the rock. Next, he takes a jack. He
Okay.
positions it on top of the crowbar
Okay.
so that it will be forced against the ceiling. However, problem. That jack is too big. It doesn't fit. Miller yells up the tunnel for a smaller one, but this took some time. And when it arrived, too small, won't reach
Oh
the
my
ceiling. But
god.
instead of sending for another one, Miller takes 2 blocks of wood and bolsters them underneath the crowbar. Right, so the
Okay.
crowbar now sits higher, it fulcrums against the blocks, and the jack is sitting
Oh
on top.
man.
All Miller has to do is expand the jack, which he will do using this spanner, holding it at the very tips of his fingers. Sounds easy.
God,
It's
this
not.
illustration is so
But that's the
good.
plan. Let's get him out of there. He turned the wrench, the jack expanded, and the crowbar took strain.
Okay.
The whole thing slid apart with a
Shit.
pang. Floyd wasn't hurt, but Miller was contorting and exerting his whole body from back to fingertip. They tried again. Same result. Miller tried a new angle. Maybe this time. The jack pressed.
Okay.
The tension increased. And this time,
What feels like a
the
bad
rock
idea?
moved. It fucking moved. With each turn, the stone shifted a little more. Miller's hands shook
Fucking
with adrenaline,
science.
his face and body dripping with sweat.
Come on, come on, come on. Oh
One
shit.
of the blocks slipped, and the wooden tower went sideways. The rock
fucking blocks of
painfully
wood.
slammed back down on Colin's foot.
You'll get it next time, Miller. Try again.
Miller did. Again and again. Adding blocks, taking them away. New crowbar position. Changed the jack position. Every angle. All while Floyd was there, cheering him on.
God damn.
For the next
Holy
4
fuck, the
hours,
persistence.
he tried. No progress. Miller was exhausted.
What
He
a
couldn't do
newspaper
this on his
boy.
own, but he was the only one slim enough to get in through the gap. The group decided to concede for now and return to the surface. They would take just a small break, but it looked to everyone like there was a clear way to get this man out. So Miller and Burden crawled back through the mud and the wines of the cave. As they made their way through, the cave was visibly sagging. The ceiling
no.
seemed lower. Parts were harder to navigate
Oh
than
no.
before, especially now with their bruised and purple hands. But they made it outside to the fresh, early morning air.
Oh, this thing's gonna fucking
And
cave
here's
in.
where they're greeted with a new sight. Dozens of soldiers. The
What?
National Guard had arrived.
Did the
In
president
addition
do
to the
this?
National Guard, a new figure was joining the story, Henry Carmichael. Now, Carmichael was the general superintendent of the Kentucky Rock Asphalt Company.
Okay.
He had been on site since Tuesday, and he was appalled at how primitive the rescue attempts had been. Shortly after Miller and Co. had exited, Carmichael sent 2 men into Sand Cave to assess the structure's stability. They soon came back with a report. It was not good. Near the final squeeze, large cracks had formed. The ceiling was beginning to droop. All right, so the following is a recounting of events from one of Carmichael's men,
Okay.
Casey Jones.
Wait.
Casey and another
Okay,
worker
okay,
spent about
okay.
an hour in the cave, surveying its condition, looking at the boards, the ceiling, the stability of the walls. He continued deeper towards Floyd. He was fighting against his nerves. The shifting of the rock pinged his every instinct to flee.
Okay.
But he heard Collins moaning ahead, so he pushed himself on. He managed to make it through the squeeze and he arrived at the 10-foot pit. Seeing Floyd trapped, he tried to ignore the pebbles that were tumbling behind him.
Come down.
I can't right now, Floyd, but I will when I get back.
Behind Casey, his partner is begging to leave. Below Casey, Collins is pleading for help.
Please, I'm so thirsty.
Okay.
Casey slid headfirst into the pit and hastily ladled Floyd some coffee. But Floyd rejected it.
No.
Rumbling intensified from
Huh.
above.
Why?
And in that moment, Casey realized that this was not a plea for sustenance. Floyd knew that a cave-in was inevitable.
Oh no.
Scared and approaching his 5th day trapped, he was completely at his wit's end. He knew he was about to be trapped in that cave.
Oh my god.
And he didn't want to be trapped alone.
Oh my god.
Casey, come on, you'll get us killed. Stay with me, please. Don't leave.
Oh.
Casey looked into
Gotta
Colin's
get out,
eyes,
right? He's gotta get
set
out.
the coffee down,
I mean, he said so.
and pulled himself out of the pit.
It's retrospective.
He wiggled underneath the sagging ceiling and crawled towards the turnaround room as fast as his limbs could scramble against the cave walls. He looked back to see the passage closing like a maw. Reflections from
God.
the bulb shining around Floyd's neck were no longer visible. Instead,
Jeez.
just sobs could be heard, muffled from behind the rocks.
Jesus Christ. Oh my god, this is terrifying. Oh, the tiny
Miller
little...
and Burton awoke
Oh.
in the morning, confident that today would be the day that they saved Floyd. They had some new equipment too. Some wire to wrap around the wooden blocks to prevent them from slipping. And they changed their mind about that acetylene torch. They'll use it to burn away 2 rocks that had previously blocked their way. But when Miller got to the turnaround room, all of that optimism left him. The entrance to the squeeze was now just a pile of debris. Miller froze, staring at it for a long while. Then he sighed and did the only thing he could think. Attempt to move some of the stones.
God, this man's
But
will.
each adjustment led to more rocks just tumbling down and landing in that space. He persisted until... crash. A large chunk of
Oh,
clay
shit.
landed onto his feet. Recognizing the danger, Miller returned to the surface. 15 minutes later,
Yeah.
he emerged from the cave with a bloodied up nose and bruises down his back and shoulders. Burton caught sight and races over to him. Miller just says, "For God's sake, just don't let Homer or anyone else back in there." Now, he didn't
Shit.
actually need to worry about Homer going back in there because he was sidelined with illness.
Oh,
But he did, however,
Seemed for all the
need
time he
to
was in
worry
there.
about Gerald because he was furious. Gerald had warned everyone that putting dozens of people in Sand Cave would cause a collapse. It certainly did. The rest of that day would be wasted as men
Shit.
threw blame around and screamed at each other about how to handle the cave-in. And Floyd spent the rest of that day alone.
fuck. It feels
The
hopeless.
surveyors
It feels
continued
truly hopeless at
checking
this
the
point.
cave throughout the day. By the evening, Carmichael had ordered
God.
everyone to an assembly. Gerald took the floor. He was going to try one last daring rescue. He boldly announced his plan and an ultimatum.
Listen up. There's death down there. The walls and ceilings are crumbling. Unless you're determined to take the biggest chance you ever took in your life, tell me now and stay outside.
Next, they told all the Gorkas to get the fuck out of the cave, clear off. And over the next 8 hours, Gerald
Okay.
would enter and leave Sand Cave at least 5 times, chipping away at that pile of debris. In the woods, men sawed trees and chopped logs to shore up the cave walls.
Okay,
Underground,
more
the
sports.
crew reinforced cracks and wobbling boulders.
Holy shit, it's
with
an actual
fresh
plan.
strips of wood.
Again, but
Gerald
still.
assessed that about 4 barrels of rocks would need to be moved, and piece by piece, they made that happen. Steadily, they managed to move enough rock to allow Gerald to get within earshot of Floyd.
Okay.
Hello? I need food.
Bad news. We can't reach you. But hold on. We're coming.
Stone by stone, they continued. After a few hours, the light of the bulb around Floyd's neck was
Okay.
peeking through. A couple more hours,
God damn.
enough room for Gerald to squeeze through.
Okay, that's enough. Floyd, I'm going for now. But when I get back, I'm gonna get you out of there.
Exhausted but still determined, Gerald crawled
boy.
back up the cave and marched to the men huddling outside.
Gather the equipment, and in an hour's time, it's gonna be me and Floyd coming out of that cave.
Okay. Wanna believe?
Gerald entered Sand Cave for his final time. The walls had been reinforced,
Okay.
but mud and water was accumulating everywhere. He waded through it and pressed on past the danger of the sagging ceiling. With determination on his face and a grease gun
Holy shit.
clutched in his right hand,
Oh,
he
is he just gonna
scrambled
lube him?
towards Floyd. But before the final squeeze, he stopped. It was all gone.
Oh.
The cave ceiling had crumbled once again.
Shit.
Gerald stared motionlessly at the pile. Then he began to yell.
Floyd!
A rock disconnected from the ceiling and tumbled onto
Oh my
Gerald's head.
god.
Luckily, just a small one. He rubbed his scalp and called out again.
Floyd!
This time, a moan. It rumbled from the other side.
Oh, you can barely hear
Fearing
him.
that his friend was slipping out of consciousness, Gerald willed himself against the cave, launching the debris behind him with force. He ignored the pain from being struck on the head and clawed at the stone pile. He carried on this way for several minutes, until a sharp, heavy rock
Oh no.
dropped from the ceiling and landed squarely on his back.
That's
No
fine, that's
more than
fine.
15 minutes later, Gerald returned to the surface. Defeated.
Shit.
Only after the
Oh my
cave-ins did they
God.
start to think about all of the things that they could have done.
Wait,
Like
why
what?
didn't we rig a portable telephone line? That would have been incredibly simple here in 1925.
Yeah, why have we been running in and out to deliver updates?
Why didn't we give him an AM radio? He
Right.
could have had something to listen to and receive messages of support from the public.
Oh my god.
Wait, why don't we rig up a tarpaulin so we could lift his torso up so he wouldn't be
Oh
slowly
my
dying
God.
of exposure?
Oh god, why didn't we run a feeding tube? That's also a technology we have in 1925.
All too late.
Oh
Now
my
what?
god.
The one route
That is so crushing. It's the kind of thing I think of as being a very modern concept. You know, the fact that in the internet age, you know, you can put out a problem and then get 5 million people all give you shitty advice. But then, like, yeah, a good, like, 50 people who will give you unbelievably good advice as well. And, like, this is the, you know, one of the, at the very least, big stories of the era where you could actually get people's input. But also, it's happening so fast that I can see why, like, you know, if someone on the other side of the country has a really good idea of how they would do it, like the TARP or whatnot, or even just, you know, I'm hearing about this on the radio, why don't we give them a radio? I can see why, you know, the information still wouldn't get to anyone who could actually make a difference. Plus, there are practical reasons for that stuff. Like, the light bulb is still so surprising because I feel like that would definitely electrocute him at some point with how much water is being, you know, built up there. But, you know, if that's safe, then, you know, radio probably safe, phone line probably pretty safe. That's part of what makes this storytelling so strong as well. Like, the fact that I don't actually know what they have in this era. So therefore, it's whatever the story wants to tell me. And if I had an idea, which I didn't have a good one besides the pulley idea. Like, there's nothing that makes me go like, well, this is obvious, though. Like, genuinely, did not even think about a feeding tube. That's so obvious in hindsight. So, the situation right now is shit's falling apart. That's the main problem. Like, we've reached the point in which just going down, A, there's a chance that the cave-ins are just going to be worse. B, if you go in, you could also, you know, just by being there, the shit might start breaking down even more. Even with the crowds gone, shit's still breaking down. But Floyd himself is probably not that much in danger of, like, stuff falling on him or whatnot, because he's so far down that I assume, like, you know, the heat and whatnot really isn't going to affect him very much. But the entire cave system is collapsing, so, like, there's really no way. The only answer I can think of is if there's another way to get to, you know, the super shiny area with the crystals and the whatnots. Because then you could go from there to where he is and get him out the other side. But again, if that was a thing, then you'd think they would have brought it up sooner. You'd think Floyd would have brought that up at the very start of all this, so that there's no way it's a possibility. Slash, if there is some tiny possibility of being able to do it with explosives, I imagine it would also risk caving in the entire fucking cave. But okay, I feel like he's gotta get out, though. So, yeah, I truly have no idea how.
Route to get to Floyd is closed forever.
Well,
That
forever.
meant two options. Number one, capitulation. Surrender him to the cave. Or number two, dig down from directly above Floyd.
Oh.
Now, the prospect of digging from above seemed almost fanciful. At least, it did in the beginning. But luckily, they had some help. Owing to Miller's reporting, Floyd had become practically the most famous person in the country.
God damn.
The rescue had become a high priority for the governor of Kentucky. Lieutenant General Denhart enters the scene.
Oh my god! He'll go on to murder his girlfriend. Oh no! I mean, okay, so he does get vigilante justice, but okay, fuck me. There have been so many little notes that I have read, but you know, they haven't been that insane. This one is fucking crazy!
Updated on the situation, and following shortly behind him is a small army of miners and engineers. He declared to the despondent crowd, "Gentlemen,
Okay.
I am here on behalf of the governor.
Ladies, go fuck
The
yourselves.
purse strings of Kentucky are open.
Okay.
Take this blank check and bring that man out alive."
God damn! How the fortunes shift.
Floyd, in that cold, wet confine, could not have imagined the scale of the operation.
He's been there
that was
for
going on
6 days.
55
Goddamn.
feet above him. Authorities assumed control of Colin's rescue. Denhart gave Henry Carmichael the lead to dig, and Carmichael raced to get to work. He enlisted his employees, his fleet of expensive high-tech machinery. Professional groups were brought in from all across the state. Local townspeople were mostly excluded, and for the first time since Collins had been trapped, work was now
the
about
size
to go
of this
ahead in a
operation.
systematic manner. Everyone knew the plan.
Okay.
Everyone had something to do.
Finally
and
got a system
everyone
again.
was working fast. But just as hopes were rising, they were once again dashed against the rocks. They had all of this state-of-the-art machinery shipped in and assembled by the engineers and rearing to go.
Uh-huh.
And it was all worthless. See, the problem is the cave drew air into it. These diesel-powered engines
Oh,
pumped out
no.
enormous volumes of choking exhaust.
Oh my
Within a day's operation,
god.
the cave would be filled with carbon monoxide, and Floyd would be dead from asphyxiation.
Holy shit.
Just as quickly as solutions would arise, the cave
my
would
God.
carry them away.
This
It
fucking
refused
cave.
to let this man go. So engineers and miners
Holy
had wasted
shit.
hours assembling everything, only to realize that they had to pack it all
I mean,
up
thank goodness they
and
realized
cart
it at
away.
least.
Because the digging of a 55-foot shaft would be done with picks and shovels.
Oh my god.
Carmichael didn't know much about caves, but he knew a lot about quarrying. And he estimated that his team of 75 volunteers could dig and dredge at a rate of 2 feet per hour.
Uh-huh.
If they worked around the clock, they would be digging directly into the spot where Floyd lays within 30 hours. Now, is it possible that Floyd could survive for another 30 hours?
Oh man, it's been so
Absolutely.
long.
Let's go. The first
I mean, yeah,
ton
don't give
was
up hope.
moved, and at first, it was easy work. Just dirt and clay. Carmichael understood well that this was a race against time, so he watched the men closely, and if they seemed to be slowing down, even a little, they would be yanked out, and immediately a new worker subbed in.
God damn.
Nonetheless, the pace slowed. By 10 feet, the shaft narrowed greatly, which meant that only 2 men could work at a time. At 15 feet, they hit boulders. Pickaxes went in, and a system of pulleys and buckets had to be used to cart the rock out. Holy
crap.
Traps were even laid to ferry the refuse.
Holy
to a dump
crap.
site.
God, I love all the systems being built. Like, you know,
Time
just
passed.
ad hoc.
Hours passed. Night went to day. The day was hot.
Not going
This
as
was
fast
yet
as we were hoping.
another
That
problem.
ain't 2 feet an
Because it's
hour.
early February, there's tons of ice still in the ground, and its exposure to the fresh midday sun meant that the walls of the shaft were softening and the ground becoming sodden. The pace of digging slowed.
Oh boy.
It was now only half a foot per hour.
Shit.
Most anyone could do was watch helplessly on the sidelines and pray.
God
Interestingly,
damn.
though, there were a lot of people on the sidelines. Floyd wouldn't have believed that
Oh
the
my
space above him had
God.
turned into a literal carnival in his honor.
Oh
Vendors showed
my
up to sell
God.
hamburgers, hot dogs, and souvenirs. Families sprawled out over blankets to listen to hymns from local church groups. The local mountebanks sold moonshine and miracle cures. There was even a bloody juggler. And Old Man Lee was there, walking around, shaking his jar, and soliciting donations.
Oh my
But where
god.
were Homer and Burden and Miller during all of this? Okay, let's back up a bit.
Yeah.
People did not properly understand exactly how Floyd was trapped, and the news didn't help much either. So the obvious question started to arise. Why hasn't he been rescued yet? Just clear some gravel or pull a rope. How is this so hard? Motive was attributed.
I heard they didn't even want to have him rescued at all.
Oh my fucking
I
god.
heard that they're doing all of this for publicity.
And Lee's activity of soliciting donations
Oh, I
remember
can
from
believe it.
before, further inflamed rumors.
I bet Floyd isn't even trapped in there.
These were all real rumors.
Fuck
and they got
off.
worse.
You know what? I've heard he comes out at night, and then he just goes back in the morning.
Other rumors included
I heard that after Floyd went into the cave, someone murdered him.
Others said,
I think they're withholding food and water from him so he dies.
This whole thing is a
God.
fraud.
as time went on, it was harder and harder to ignore the hoax
Fucking fake
claims.
news.
Then, people started to form righteous mobs, claiming the whole thing was a fraud, and they started to get nasty. In fact, 2 people even went to the telegraph office and pretended to be Floyd, sending
What?
telegrams to his mother.
What?
Here's what it
People
said.
like this?
Quote, "Please contradict statements that I am buried alive in Sand Cave. Stop.
Oh my
Tell mother I
God.
am all right. Stop. Am coming home. Stop. Floyd Collins."
Fuck
Naturally,
off.
the AP published these telegrams unquestioningly, and now word is out to the press that he isn't actually in the cave after all. That made the authorities look foolish, and it could not go on. So, a hasty court-martial was arranged, and Homer, Miller, and Gerald were summoned.
Okay,
They
that's
hold
right.
one session on Monday and another on Tuesday. Lee and everyone else is cleared of charges, a retraction is written, and things carry on. Generators
I mean, at least
rumbled.
didn't stop the actual
Pumps
work.
churned out water. Men continued working in shifts and carrying away the earth. Here they are with strips of lumber to shore up the walls.
God.
They were only 25 feet down. The pace had slowed to 4 inches per hour.
Oh my God.
In their desperation, they resorted to dynamite. But this did little to the boulders. Despite all these bleak circumstances, people's spirits were high because everyone was keen for their turn to dig. And
Okay.
because they had one more thing to latch onto. He is probably still alive. Now, how do they know that?
Uh-huh.
So remember that light bulb around Floyd's neck?
Yeah.
Well, it's powered by a simple copper wire. Bare copper wire is subject to very minute fluctuations in resistance. So, an engineer rigs up a radio amplifier to this wire to read
Okay.
the current and see those small fluctuations. There they were. About 20 per minute. The rate of steady breathing. As his chest expands and contracts, they
Holy
can
shit.
read it from this device.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so they kept going.
I mean, not foolproof, but that's such a clever idea. Holy shit.
And going. And going. 30 hours was the original estimate. Now 144 hours had come and gone, and they were only at
Holy
44 feet.
It's like half the time in this entire
rainfall.
thing.
Rain that mixed with dirt to make mud,
Oh
much
no.
of which then froze to make ice. Ice which expanded and damaged the integrity of the shaft walls.
Oh fuck.
Slowing down with every hour, they continued.
They're getting there though. Holy shit, they're
Many
getting
more
there.
hours passed, and they were getting close. But it was now 15 days since Floyd was first stuck in that cave, and people had mostly lost hope. That excitement in the newspapers was tempering down. Visitors began
Already
clearing
old
out from
news.
Cave City. Many still held on to hope, but their final lifeline, that light bulb, had burnt out. And it wasn't possible to do any more readings on the radio amplifier without it. No one
man.
knew if Floyd was still alive.
Oh man.
Another 51 hours would pass before, finally, they reached the 60-foot depth.
I'm in. Chisel.
A chisel is handed
Holy
down.
shit.
At 1:30 p.m. on Monday, February 16th, Sand Cave would open once again. For 17 days, Floyd had been trapped underground, stuck in the same position. 4 days without heat or light. 12
fuck.
without food or water. But maybe the dripping of the cave water had provided him with some sustenance? There are stories of people surviving harsher extremes.
Oh boy.
Listeners frantically tugged at rocks to widen the hole. Everybody stood by, absolutely silent, peering into that hole.
Come on.
Ed flashed his light into the gap, then eased himself in. Brenner aimed his light around the room, and then
Come on.
finally at Floyd. The first thing he saw was a golden shimmer. It was not the light bulb. It was the reflection of Floyd's tooth. His mouth hung open.
Oh,
He was dead.
shit!
Brenner was helped out of the
Oh
cave
my
and he
fucking
delivered the
God.
news.
Dead.
Oh my god.
A coroner would
all
later state
that.
that Floyd succumbed to exposure and that they had missed him by just 3 days. About the same time that the light bulb had gone out.
Oh, that's thematic. Shit. I mean, also, that was giving him heat, so... yeah. Shit.
But what would they do now with the body? The shaft walls were ready to fall inwards, and risking lives to remove a corpse was seen as just irresponsible.
Oh my god, are they gonna
So the
leave it in the
following morning,
cave?
officials made a decision. Floyd would be entombed where he lay.
I mean, I
cave
can't blame him for
would
it.
keep its victim.
The cave wins.
Now this did not
Like, even
sit
in
well
death,
with
he
the
doesn't get to
family,
leave.
but what
Fuck
could they do?
off.
The next day, they planned the funeral. The town emptied of people, and the shaft with Floyd at the bottom was refilled with soil. But that's not quite the end of the
Shit.
story. But if you hung on for this long, keep holding on, because
Okay.
things are going to continue to get interesting. But first, let me do a wrap-up
What
of
else
everyone
is
knows and all
there?
that stuff. Context. The Collins family already had financial hardship. Locals saw Old Man Lee scouring the rescue site for glass bottles. But the owner of the land, B. Doyle, and supposed friend of Floyd, was wholly unsympathetic. He erected a sign on the highway which said, 200 yards away, the body of Floyd Collins is imprisoned in Sand
Oh
Cave.
my god.
Then he began charging tourists 50 cents apiece for the opportunity to gander into the hole.
Oh
100
my
years later,
God.
Lee's dead. Let's call it even. Also, remember those claims of Kentucky being an open purse?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the state reneged on the deal. They refused
Oh
to
my
pay many of
God.
the rescuers, and most of them went home without any compensation. Some of them did make some money out of the situation, though. They lucked into vaudeville gigs and roamed the country,
Ooh, really?
giving their
Yeah.
first-person account. Miller,
That's
however,
cool, I
received
guess.
an astonishing offer, a $50,000 contract from the Chautauqua
Damn.
Lecture Circuit, equivalent to the better part of $1 million in today's money.
Mm-hmm.
He declined. He continued to work at the Louisville Courier-Journal. The following
Dude,
year,
holy
his
crap.
coverage of Floyd's story earned him the Pulitzer Prize. And
Damn.
the brother, Homer, he needed money and he agreed to do that vaudeville circuit. He stood on stage and regaled the audience about tales of his brother, their childhood, and the tragedy. But Homer made it known why he was up here on stage trying to get money. He had a mission.
I kept thinking of Floyd.
Oh my
lying
God,
in the
oh my God,
mud,
he's gonna get
where
the body
he had
out, right?
Suffered beyond our power to imagine. I would never have peace of mind if he remained there.
He wanted the money to dig Floyd up and get him out of that cave.
So yeah, that way the
Couple of
cave
months
doesn't
later,
win. I get
he
it.
had All right, so back to Floyd. April 17th,
They didn't fill
1925.
up the hole again.
7 miners
Oh.
showed up to the scene. They began to dig. Within a week, they had arrived at Floyd. And this time,
Goddamn.
they approached from the other side of the rock formation. That way, they could remove the rock pinning Floyd's
Okay.
leg. They lifted him up from his tomb and laid him down on the fresh air above.
So he
April
finally got
26,
out.
1925. Floyd was set to rest in the family cemetery. A stalagmite had been set as a headstone to mark
Oh
out his body.
man.
And there he lay. No, that's not actually where it ends. Okay, this is where it gets weird. 2 years later, 1927.
Uh-huh.
Times have been tough for the Collins. So Floyd's dad sold Sand Cave to a dentist named Dr. Harry B. Thomas
Okay.
for $10,000. Now, Homer begged him not to, because at the time, the government was starting to buy up tons of land in the area and turn it into national parks. They had
Yeah.
to pay at a very competitive rate. But Lee was becoming a bit old and senile by this point.
Oh,
and frankly,
no.
it's doubtful that he cared about Homer or Floyd or anyone else for that matter.
Shit.
It's 100 years later, he's dead now. Let's call it even. So, the point is, in this land sale with Thomas, Lee agreed to a very odd clause.
Uh-huh.
And that clause said, everything on that property belongs to Thomas. And should he wish,
Okay.
for example, to exhume a dead body
Uh-huh.
and re-embalm it and put it on display
Oh,
in something
no.
really tacky like a
Oh no.
glass coffin inside a cave, maybe,
What?
then that would be
Oh
his
my
prerogative.
fucking god.
Lee signed Yes.
Jesus
And
Christ.
Thomas did exactly that.
Jesus
Doyle made
Christ.
Floyd's corpse a tourist attraction. That's right. Two bits of gander come and wonder at the incredible dead man who died in a cave.
God.
But to add insult to injury, it worked. Visitors returned to Sand Cave to gawk morbidly at Floyd.
What the
Within a few
fuck?
months, Thomas had turned Lee's failing
I
farm
can't
into
believe
a
this.
successful business.
I can't fucking believe this.
Now, the rest of Collins' family is horrified. They try a number of times to get Floyd returned to them, including through the legal system. But somehow, incredibly, the judge ruled in Thomas's favor. And so, there he lay for the next 2 years.
Jesus. Oh my
The cave
God.
was not done with Floyd.
This is so insane.
Until someone hatched a plan. 2 years later, it's midnight. Outside
Are they
Sand
gonna
Cave.
steal him?
Footsteps can be heard rustling through the brush. Now, we don't know who these two men are, but we know why they are here. To rob a grave. They sneak inside and clamber over the rocks in the darkness. Reaching Floyd's casket, they undo the latch and throw open the lid.
It's gotta be his family members,
There
right?
is his shriveled body. They
I hope
throw
it
him
is.
in a gunny sack, and they race off into the night.
I hope they're not gonna just like put him somewhere
For
else.
800 yards they carry dear Floyd, like a couple of sweaty Santas about to deliver a really terrible Christmas present. Panting, out of breath, knowing that they're going to get caught any minute, they reach the Kentucky Green River hillside. There's no time. With a 1, 2, 3, they launch his body towards the river, and Floyd goes sailing into the air, up, up, into the starlit beyond.
Jesus
and
Christ.
landing in a bush. Oh, God.
Oh
The
no.
two men flee from the scene. Now, the next morning, Thomas notices that the body of Floyd is somewhat missing, and he contacts the authorities. The police come, they dust the casket for fingerprints, and bloodhounds are given Floyd's scent and let loose into the hillside.
Oh my
A
God.
few hours later, they manage
Is he
to
gonna
find
go
him,
back in?
a tangled up mess near the river, but this time with a leg missing. That same one that was trapped under
my
the rock.
God.
So,
I mean, it would've been
despite
weakened,
his
so I get it.
protest, It had been amputated.
Oh my
Neither the
God.
leg nor the culprits were ever found. And while it would be nice to think that this was some well-intentioned duo that did this out of the kindness of their hearts to free Floyd, it's much more likely that it was an act of vandalism because Floyd was simply too much of a hot tourist attraction.
Oh my
The
God.
following day, Floyd was cast back into the cave. Back
Fucking
into
hell.
his box. And it was covered by a metal lid, surrounded by a metal chain,
He doesn't need to be in the
and
box.
locked with a padlock. He
Just
was now
lie.
more trapped than he had ever been.
Oh my fucking God.
This cave had spun fate once again to make sure that its victim would never leave.
This truly feels
And so-
supernatural.
Time passed. Floyd's body would continue to decay. The rot from his body would eventually rot the casket too, and every decade or so, it would need to be replaced.
Oh my
A
God.
few years later, he was no longer
Or
on display.
caskets.
But even then, he remained in that box for many more years.
Holy shit.
In 1961, Floyd's Cave was purchased by Mammoth Cave National Park, and it was closed to the public. There would be no more visitors. The entrance itself to Floyd's Cave was closed with a steel gate and bolted, then welded shut. But the
still in
Collins
there?
family never gave up objecting to Collins' body being left in the cave. And here
Oh, he's got kids.
is where the story ends. In 1989, at the Collins' request, the National Park Service ventured into Floyd's Cave, continuing on a more than
So
60-year
long.
tradition. A team of people worked over the course of several days to remove him from the cave. They took him out,
Holy shit.
left the cave, locked it behind them, and laid Floyd to rest at the Mammoth Cave Baptist Church Cemetery.
Oh my God.
After 64 years
Oh
in Sand
my
Cave,
God.
he is now finally at peace. The end.
Okay.
Thank you to Wendigoon as Floyd,
Holy
If you
shit,
don't let
what
me
a
out, I'm gonna
story.
hire a gang of hitmen to come to your house and kill your family.
Samito as Homer,
The BTS meal.
Oh, those are the actual voice actors.
I'm hungry.
Damn.
And eat some BTS.
I was wondering
Ordinary
where
things
the
as
designs
Miller.
came
I'm
from.
enthusiastic, but would ultimately duck out the back exit.
Rusty Cage as Gerald,
Oh, well, hello there.
Also, I have no idea who
Haven't
these
seen
people
you in
are.
a while. Welcome to my new home.
and many kudos as Burden.
Hey, buddy. You right down there? You little sleepy?
I can.
We get your coffee? Little cup of Joseph? Little cup of Joseph? A cup of Joseph from a little sleepy guy?
Also, by the way, in case you're confused about the channels, this is how it works now.
Okay.
And do not forget, World of Tanks, World of Tanks. None of this would have happened if Floyd had got World of Tanks.
You sure about that? You sure about that? Oh no, we're stopping there. But yeah, banger. God damn. What a story. Got a little Christmas thing at the end there, so I guess it is actually a Christmas video. But Jesus Christ. It truly does feel like a cursed cave. God damn, I can't believe it took so long for him to... Like, it's the initial... it truly is like 2 parts at the very, very least. Like, the up until he is dead part, which already felt so insanely long, had so many twists and turns, was such an insanely interesting story. And then it does feel like part 2 is the... I guess he's fucking, like, even in death, they still will not let him leave the cave. But yeah, also just very fascinating to learn about the Kentucky caving system and the, the various cave gangs and whatnot. So many little details that didn't come up again for so long. Yeah, I don't have a lot of crazy insight or anything, but this was so insanely well told. The animation, of course, good as always. I don't know if I said anything that was specific, like, oh, that's really dope looking, but, for the most part, it was just generally well done. Just a good video. What an absolute fucking nightmare. What an absolute fucking nightmare. Both for, Floyd himself and for the family as well. Like, I can't believe how long it took for them to finally lay him to rest. I mean, there's the double thing of also, like, when he passed away, it made total sense to say hard, like, okay, we'll lay him to rest in there. I was fully willing to accept it as we're not gonna give people's lives in order to get him out. But once we, get past that point and it is safer for people to go down, the fact that, the fact that it switched from, the cave, which, even if you call the cave, evil or whatnot, or if you give it a personality, it is still ultimately this force of nature. Whereas immediately, as soon as humans get more involved in keeping him in, it becomes evil. Also, the fact that we do the big switch from, the cave thing goes on for so long that apropos of fucking nothing, people start coming up with conspiracy theories, which is, that's just the way it is in real life, or, in modern day as well. I can't believe I said real life. But, it's still a thing that happens today. There's so much in this that just feels so extremely, reminiscent of the modern era. There's so much like, oh yeah, people haven't really changed that much. All this shit would basically happen the same way. Just, with a little updated technology. Like the whole submarine thing not that long ago. But, sorry, I brought that up specifically because of the irony of everyone, apropos of nothing, going, well, there's probably a big conspiracy to keep him in the cave. And then when there finally is an actual conspiracy to keep him in the cave, it doesn't sound like anyone was upset about it because they'd all, they'd stopped thinking about it. Jesus Christ. It truly is just a very good, no bad cave. I mean, there's also the inherent, irony of Floyd doing all of this in hopes that it would drive tourist stuff, and then his suffering is what turns the place into a tourist destination. And I guess it is only his suffering that makes it a tourist destination. Like, as the video is framed, beforehand, no one would bother going. Once he is being tortured and dying in the cave, people are interested. As we get, more and more close to there being a possible way for him to actually, genuinely get out, no one gives a shit about it anymore. Once he is dead, no one gives a shit about it anymore. They care about the people who were involved, but they're not that interested in the family. The family does not benefit. He, in no way, really benefits. And then people only start getting interested in his story and the cave and all that once his family can genuinely no longer benefit from it. Like, the moment they give up the right to exploit him in any way whatsoever, which they weren't doing, is the moment in which they finally get some benefit for it. Like, his dad was, getting donations and stuff and whatnot, but considering that he needed to sell the farm afterwards, I'm feeling like the donations weren't that much, all things considered. Probably not as much as the amount of money people were getting off of tourism and whatnot. Ah, what a tragic, despicable, unfair story. But yeah, that is about it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me as I saw this video. It was a hot banger. I don't know if I'm going to be watching anymore, but I don't know. It's a pretty damn good channel. I get the hype. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah. Okay, well, with that, I shall bid you adieu. Check out anything else on my channel if you're interested in it. I don't really do stuff like this, but, I might do more video content. But we shall see. Until then, bye for now, and yeah. Oh, and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.